afternoon. Today on the PIO podcast, I have the distinct honor of speaking with Chata. She's the Executive Director of Public Affairs for the Atlanta Police Department. Welcome to the show.
Hello, Robert. I am excited to join you on the PIO podcast. As a PIO, I am super excited because I get to talk to people who speak the same language that I speak.
It's amazing how often we don't do that, but yet when we do, it's always fun because we do all speak the same language. And just really quickly, you had an incredible background over the last 2 decades. You've had PIO positions in other organizations. You were in the news media. You have done everything probably imaginable that somebody in your line of work would do. So kudos to you for doing it. And at the same time, you have like private endeavors that you're involved in, which is awesome. So thank you for doing everything that you do, even though you're still doing stuff privately for yourself. And by the way, that is a great thing to do, to take care of yourself and to make sure that you are getting that me time that is so important, because I think so many PIOs forget to take care of themselves because they're always taking care of the agency.
That is very true. My background is I've worked in news since I was 5 years old, actually younger. I can remember always wanting to work in the news industry. I've been on camera, off camera. Had an opportunity to move into the government sector and be a PIO. Also worked in the private sector, worked for CNN as well as Time Warner. And in both, I worked in news at CNN and Time Warner. I worked as I worked as a technical writer, and then I work for the Atlanta Police Department. I am the executive director of public affairs, and I absolutely love what I do. I teach classes. As a matter of fact, I'm teaching a class very soon this week to other PIOs. I have my own private business. It is a business that works in the area of crisis and crisis communications, but I do the good, fun, nice, soft, flowery, teddy bear things as well. But my specialty is crisis. My team has pegged me as It's Handle. I say I'm going to get It's Handled tattooed on my arm. And my
Nice.
team also says,
Outstanding.
once the boss lady gets it, that's a name they came up for me. It's Handled.
That's awesome. Chata, since you've been doing this for a while now, when you came in as the Director of Public Affairs at APD, what did you find the most challenging?
Well, I came in from day one, everything was challenging because my story is a little different than most. I was working for myself. This was in 2020. Was working for myself. I got a phone call from the former chief of police, the CEO of the Atlanta Police Foundation, as well as the person who was being named chief. This was all in the midst of COVID and civil unrest. This was following the George Floyd incident, as well as Atlanta had had its own officer involved shooting out at a Wendy's. So I came in and I came in after the chief and the communications director had stepped down. So I came in with literally I was drinking out of a water fountain, more not even a water fountain, a fire hydrant, excuse me. And it was a lot. And the challenge was I really didn't know my team. We met. My first real day was a day where a young lady had been killed, and so that was a challenge for me. But overall, when it comes down to it, I am a problem solver, and I always say it's handled. But we do it. I do it in a space of with grace, and as I say, with class. But sometimes the biggest challenge can be working with this change in media.
Mm-hmm.
Right now, that is our biggest challenge. You have reporters who are in a traditional news setting. However, they are competing with social media. And social media is instant and social media isn't always correct. And then you have reporters who are, but it said on social one thing. Well, that's not correct. And you're also, the other challenge is you're faced with everybody is a news reporter now, whether they went to journalism school or whether they just pulled out their phone out their back pocket and posted that particular video on a social media platform. Everybody is a reporter. So that becomes my biggest challenge because there may be a situation in which an officer's behavior may not have been favorable for the department. And we may not know, but we find out because somebody literally posted on their phone
Yeah.
and we're getting inquiries from something on our phone. So that can be one of the biggest challenges. And one of the other ones is what I call the enemy is the inner me. And when I say the inner me is when you have an officer or a member of the department who does something that is not favorable in the eye of the community or favorable to the department, and it becomes a widespread story. So
Mhm.
that can be, those are my two biggest challenges.
Right. And I will say this, like, larger departments, and because you're the hub for CNN in Atlanta, and then of course your media market's pretty large. You're like, I want to say probably 5 or 6 for media market.
I know we're in the top 10.
Okay, so with such a large area, there's a lot of news media that's there. You guys obviously may have done this years ago where you credentialed reporters, and now
Years ago,
it doesn't
but
matter,
now,
right? Yeah. So it's impossible to tell who's who, and like you said, the guy writing a blog and then takes video and puts it out on social is now the most in-depth investigative news reporter, and I think that's one of the big issues that I've seen after talking to so many PIOs over the last 4 years is you get the media that will call you and say, "Oh, I saw it on social media that this was posted," and they're looking for that second confirmation. So I kind of call it lazy reporting because they don't want to actually look for it. They're just hoping they can confirm that, and then they've got their second fact, so they can say that they got two sources, which is
and
unfortunate.
that is, we see a lot of that. And I know that there are different platforms, different cities have, for instance, we have ATL Scoop, that is not a shameless plug for them. But that is one of our biggest platforms on Instagram where the actual members of the public can submit videos. And that has become a source. People will look there before they look on the traditional news outlets, whether it be print, television, or even digital. They look on social first to confirm everything.
Right. And that's unfortunate because at social we know it's so easy to manipulate, and especially now with AI now it's even easier to do. That's the unfortunate thing that we're going to be challenged with in the next few years. Chata, how is your public affairs unit? How's it currently staffed?
So my public affairs unit is both sworn and civilian. I have four, let me make sure, let me get it right. No, five, five regular PIOs who are sworn. I have two sergeants. I have a second in command, as well as, and that person is civilian. And I have a senior communications manager. I have two of those and a communications manager. I also maintain the website for APD. And on our website, we utilize it a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Our PIOs utilize it to share information, but my staff is growing. I also have a videographer, something new we added, and an open records manager because we do handle open records for the media. We deal with the media open records so that way we can be abreast of what might be in the news.
Right.
Because a lot of agencies, open records is just handled by one group. With us being able to handle the open records for the media, it gives me an idea of what they're looking into. We can help control the narrative a little bit as we can. But my staffing is, I have a pretty large staff, but it does match the volume. If once I, and I'm growing the staff, so I know I'm gonna be adding at least 3 to 4 additional people,
Mm-hmm.
but our dilemma is space in the office. I got to get more space. But we are adding 3 to 4 more people to the staff because our demand is growing.
Chana, that's interesting. You guys are the point of contact for your freedom of information request for the news media specifically. That's outstanding because, yeah, like if you submit a request through your normal channels through like your records department or like a FOIA officer, they may not necessarily know to let you know that this is something that's coming through from the news media, whether it's CNN or Inside Edition, which if you ever get those, you've got a problem because there's always
Yeah,
something.
we get TMZ a lot.
Oh, yeah.
And we're in charge of that because it helps us with trying to ensure that we know what's going to be on the news. So I definitely suggest to departments, if you can, to utilize your public affairs unit or your PIO office to handle all of those open records. And then it also allows you to track what they do.
Right.
So hence why I have an open records manager. She tracks what we're doing. And we use a portal so we can keep up with everything that is being
Well,
released.
that's very convenient. And the only bad thing is, like, for some agencies, they just don't have the staff. They don't have the dedicated staff that can handle that in the role of a public information officer. So,
And what I say to that is usually see if you all can have a shared portal. So at least that person who, if it's a one man band, they can at least see what is coming in.
right, exactly. Chata, how does your public affairs unit handle significant incidents? Like, does a PIO respond directly to the scene? What's the process for you guys?
So we have a new process each day because I have enough PIOs for the Monday through Friday work week. Depending on the level of the situation, the PIO will respond. They will go out. That way, it gives me firsthand information because sometimes if you got to wait for a sergeant or you got to wait for a lieutenant, you got to wait for, let's just say, the homicide unit to arrive, I can get with my PIO who can tell me, hey, it's just a person shot in the leg. Not saying that that's not important, but a person shot in the leg usually does not rise to the same level as someone shot in the chest
Right.
or in the head. So with having a PIO there, I can get information quicker and I can get that out to the media who would normally respond much faster because that might, depending on where the person was shot or if it was grazed, that might determine whether they show up with a news crew or not.
Right, right. Are you using any of the sentiment monitoring software or social media monitoring software?
Not a lot because our numbers are so high. We really do and you would think an agency our size that we would use a lot of that software. We do a lot of that part manually. I am blessed to have an amazing senior communications manager who is very good at monitoring it manually.
Okay.
She catches a lot of things. And we've looked at the software, but sometimes we've looked at different and tried different software. Sometimes she's better than the software, believe it or not.
If you've got somebody that's good at doing it and they know what to look for and they're on the right channels and so on, yeah, they probably will pick it up quicker than the software will at this point. Eventually, what will happen is the AI will figure it out and it'll be quicker. But that's neither here nor there. That's awesome that you have somebody that handles that. Chada, for officer involved shooting, do you guys produce an OIS like incident briefing video or anything like that?
We do. We tend to officer involved shootings. If it rises to that level, myself or my one of my two sergeants or both of us, sometimes the whole team, depending on the situation, will go out to the officer involved shooting. But we usually post a video from the scene with our chief of police. If he's there and he's been at just about every single one of them, if he's not there, the next in command, we actually produce the video then and there. We send out a message to our department as well because when I got here, I noticed that that was something we didn't do. And you have officers finding out
Mm-hmm.
about one of their colleagues being injured or shot in a situation in which they find out on the news or somebody just stops them on just passing by and say, hey, we heard about the shooting. And the officers are like, huh? So what we do is we send out a message to the department. It's kind of a blanket message where we fill in the information. We don't give the officer's name, but we do that internally. And then once we go live on Facebook and our social media platforms, we send the link to the entire department so they can see everything.
Okay, and then like later on, say I don't know how you handle how the legal and like GBI comes in and they do their investigation on the shooting because I think GBI takes over the whole thing, correct? For an officer involved shooting. All right, so you guys probably wouldn't produce any video in regards to the outcome of that shooting, or that would come from GBI.
Not always. It depends. Some of those more high profile, they've gotten a lot of media attention. Sometimes we have to produce something else, but we have to do that in tandem with the GBI as well as the Fulton County District Attorney's Office.
Okay.
So we have to work in lockstep with them. But once GBI takes over, there's not a whole lot more we produce outside of that first day. And maybe the second day, we may be, depending on the request, we may end up releasing the officer's photos. It just depends. Each officer involved shooting is a little different.
Right, right. So because significant incidents like an OIS or something, there's always confusion, misinformation, disinformation by, the well-meaning citizen or the troll. How do you guys handle that stuff?
Fortunately, we have a great social media presence. And so we don't get a lot of that. The most misinformation and disinformation have been related to our public safety training center. But we don't get a lot of misinformation and disinformation when we have officer involved shootings because I'm really big on chief, we got to say something.
Well, that's
We
outstanding.
say that, we try to say it as quickly as possible. Now, don't get me wrong, quickly might be a couple of hours. And I try not to go beyond an hour and a half to 2 hours after an incident. Because you got to gather all the facts, get all the information. You got to talk to the team that may have responded. But I try to set my own deadline of an hour and a half after the incident, no later than 2 hours.
Well, that's outstanding. That's awesome. Chata, you have a phrase. I'm serious about what I do because what I do is serious. Can you explain that?
I have been told that I'm a very serious person. Serious, but my team will tell you, they call me boss lady. I love to have fun, but when it's time to work, I'm very serious. And everything that I do, from something small to the biggest thing, it's all serious. Like, I literally am one of those people who, the smallest task, I'm going to do it to the best of my ability. If I've got an audience of one, I'm going to talk to you like I'm talking to you now, like it's 1,000 people. And so I give my all into everything because I'm really serious. I'm serious about my team. I have the best team on this side of heaven, and nobody can tell me any different. I work for the best department in the state of Georgia, if you ask me, in the entire world. As a matter of fact, the galaxy, and nobody can tell me different. So I just take everything, I take it serious. And although I take things serious, I take life serious. I have fun too, because I know you mentioned, like, PIOs, we do get bogged down in the work. I believe in taking breaks. I will get on a plane and fly to Morocco. Some people go to Miami. I
Wow.
go to Morocco.
Nice.
Love that. But I am one of those people who, I take life so serious. This is not a dress rehearsal.
Good.
And so I believe each day you got to have fun, make fun, and you got to be great.
Right, right. Chata, you are involved in a variety of endeavors. Can you talk about a couple of them?
So I own a communications business, Spike Communications LLC. It's a boutique crisis communications and consulting business. We work with schools, churches, government. Social media is a part of what we do as well, but my knack is government and public safety. I found a knack in public safety. I love it. I love people. I love police officers. I love firefighters. So that's become my knack. I'm also the owner of the $5 jewelry truck. It is a actual truck that has jewelry on it. It's a box truck, but if you get on the truck, you actually think that you're in a store. And so that's one of the things that I started, that was it was kind of like a stress reliever. I have that. Then I have some real estate business that I do. I'm not a real estate agent. I just own properties. So that's another thing. That's a headache. That is a heart. It's a part of my heart too. I'm a former college professor, so I still have ties to my university, the Fort Valley State University, and that's where I own my property. So my tenants are students,
Okay.
but I do a lot. My church, my sorority. I believe in being active, but I also believe in having time for yourself. I think that's something important, because one thing I noticed that we tend to do in the public safety sector is we get bogged down with, we find ourselves watching Chicago PD, First 48. Get
Yes.
away from that. Have things outside of
Right,
that.
right.
Know how to take a vacation, and have a side gig. I believe in, if you're going to do something, get paid to do it.
Exactly.
I'm a
I agree.
motivational speaker. And so that's one of the things that I love the best, being a motivational speaker. I love getting to meet people and getting to know people and then changing their lives. I always believe in impact and empower.
Outstanding. Chata, as a seasoned communication professional, where do you see public affairs professionals' job being impacted by artificial intelligence?
You know what? The only thing I think that we have that artificial intelligence does not is we have heart intelligence. We have something that no computer, I don't think there'll ever be a computer built that can have what we have with our heart. Being able to respond to a situation and understand that you may have a grieving mother who is finding out that her child has passed away. And also, even going to a scene and there's a business owner where they feel like they have lost their livelihood because of a robbery or a burglary. I think that AI will never be able to fill that spot. And if we continue to understand compassion, I think that's how we will continue to keep our jobs. Because in this industry that we work in, especially on the law enforcement side, an industry where people have made it to be something so negative,
Hmm.
PIOs are able to provide the heart.
I agree,
And I
100%.
think that we have to show our leaders why our jobs are relevant, because we provide the heart for the department. My office is the one that shows you the kids at 9/11 with the flag, and you see the children who are clapping and high-fiving our chief and our officers and smiling and hugging. Artificial intelligence will never be able to do that.
No,
And if it does, and I'm wrong, then I'm wrong. But I feel that nothing beats the heart.
I love that,
And
Chata.
nothing beats the hand.
That's
The
awesome.
hand with a wave, a high five, a hug, and a handshake. Artificial intelligence can't beat that.
Yep, that I agree 100%. I agree that our ability to have compassion and express that compassion is something that no computer, I don't care how intelligent it is, it's not going to understand what's that intangible that's in somebody's heart. It really is never going to be able to do it. Chana, what suggestions would you have for somebody that might be crazy enough to want to pursue the career in public information or public affairs?
Do it. Just do it. Just like Nike. Just do it. This is a lot of people come to my office and they say, "We did not know all that you do." I've had one of my folks who got promoted. He says he feels that everyone should be required to spend a day in public affairs to see just what we do.
Mm,
I think this is an opportunity and a job that you have to, number one, you got to be ready for it. And when I say be ready for things to pivot and change. No one ever expects that their day may change like mine did on June 11th, where I have a shooting on one side of the street, cross the street, and someone has hijacked a bus. So you have to be somebody who's flexible. You have to be someone who is willing to make change. But I say just do it. This will be one of the most rewarding, yet one of the most challenging jobs that go hand in hand. Being able to do this job and do it with confidence is necessary, because especially if you are a civilian in a sworn world, understanding your place that you have within your agency and understanding the value, you got to understand your value, because you could be challenged, but you must understand your value to a department. I always say anything that happens in this department, from an officer being caught on camera giving a child a teddy bear to an officer caught on camera not necessarily doing the right thing, I got to deal with all of it. And it's my job to tell both stories.
yep, absolutely.
And so go for it. Just do it.
I love that. I love that. Chad, is there a question I should have asked? And if so, how would you have answered it?
Let me think. You asked me what's my biggest challenge. You know what? Maybe what's my reward?
There you go. What's your reward?
My reward for this job is I feel like I am a crime solver, a problem solver. This job has exposed me to so much. And you would think, considering I've worked for television stations, I worked for news networks from ABC to Fox and to CNN, but this has been my most rewarding job. Local government, and people would say, but you've had an opportunity to do so much. This and teaching, I can never forget my years as a college professor, because I taught. As a matter of fact, let me say this: one of my former students works in my office.
That's awesome.
So the rewards from teaching to working with people to seeing smiles on faces and even to being there and hugging a mother who's grieving, those are still rewards, because I do give them a sense that to know that we care. And I have become the heart of the department, like I mentioned earlier. But that's my biggest reward.
Yeah. I got a real quick story about rewards for me. Like years ago, I was an SRO in a school, and every day there was a girl that would walk by me, and I would say hello to her. She would ignore me, head down, every day. Went through the seventh and eighth grade, all the way almost through eighth grade. And then one day she didn't show up to school. Went by like 3 days, 4 days. I finally went to the nurse. Do you know what happened? And she says, well, I can't really say, but there was an incident. Okay, so I go and look it up. Turns out that the girl had tried to commit suicide, and or I should say, was going to try and commit suicide. But what ended up happening is when she told me this later on. She came back to school and she said, felt guilty that you wouldn't be able to say good morning to me. So when I was thinking about doing it, I ended up calling my mother and telling her, and my mother got me a medical assistance, and she was in therapy. So she tells me this like 3 weeks later. Fast forward now, 8 years, 9 years, and pinned a badge on her when she became a police officer. Yeah.
Love a happy ending.
Yeah.
There's nothing like a happy ending.
Let me tell you, you can never discount hello or have a great day. You never know the impact you're going to have on somebody. You just don't.
And it's funny you say that because I start my day with great day. And I remember I would come into the meetings and everybody's like, oh, great day. Guess what? Just as late as this morning, someone said, all right, have a great day. I don't believe in good days. I believe in great days.
Awesome.
And as long as we're able to do two things. One is inhale, the other exhale, we're still having a great
That's
day.
right. Absolutely. Let's go to some rapid fire questions.
Okay.
Texting or talking?
Talking.
Movie or a book?
Movie.
Coffee, tea, or energy drink?
None.
Adult
Water.
drink of choice?
Water.
What would be your superpower if you could have one?
To live forever.
Ask permission or beg for forgiveness?
Beg for forgiveness.
What place do you most want to travel to?
Just the entire world. I want to see it all.
Awesome. If you could choose to sit down and have a coffee or a drink with any historical figure, living and dead, who would it be?
My historical figure would actually be my grandfather. He might not be historic to the world, but he's historic to me.
Outstanding. Chata, what key points would you like our listeners to take from today's interview?
Key points would be, number one, be authentic to yourself. Do your job to the best of your ability. As PIOs, we do a lot. We're responsible for a lot, but do your job to the best of your ability because it will pay off. Number two, have patience with yourself, meaning take time away from work at times and try to do it on a regular basis. I have a mantra of every 6 months I'm going somewhere out the country, and every 3 months I'm going to go somewhere in the United States. And every month I try to do something within the state of Georgia. So I know that may be a lot, and it's ways to do that without spending a lot of money. I know that sometimes PIOs aren't at the top of the food chain when it comes to pay, but figure out a way to make something happen for yourself. And number three, just have fun. This is a job that you can have fun. You're in the know. My grandmother always says to me, she's 85, and she says, I sure would love to do your job, and I could do your job, and you should take me to work with you sometimes because I'm nosy and y'all know everything. So do your job and have fun because you do. You get to know things that you're like, that's interesting. Do your job and have fun. And when it's over and it's all said and done, you can say you did it to the best of your ability. And you want to go down in your own personal history as someone who was effective in what you do.
Outstanding. Chata, how can people best reach out if they want to connect or follow up?
You can reach me on social media, Facebook, which is just my name, CHATASPIKES, as well as Instagram, LinkedIn. You can always email the departments, cmspikes@atlantag.gov. You can Google me. You'll find me.
I'll put all that into the show notes. Chata, thank you very much for coming on today. On the podcast. What a remarkable conversation we had today.
I've had fun. I'm very appreciative. I'm thankful. I hope that something that I've said has been able to reach and inspire someone to do their job and take it to the next level. And like I said, and have some fun and take some time for you.
And that's Chata Spikes. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, we're out. Nice job.